And right now, Eric Arnold, the Forbes editor and author of The First Big Crush, The Down and Dirty of Making Great Wine Down Under, is joining us here on The Crush. Eric, welcome to the Wine Crush.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, this is a delight. Anytime I can get an author who puts an interesting spin on wine, I'm happy.
Well, I'm glad I can help. I mean, the whole reason I wrote the thing was because I never personally read anything interesting about wine that engaged me. I didn't know anything about wine, actually, and I thought, well, I should learn about it my way and just sort of throw myself into it. And I figured that if I could learn about it that way, I guess maybe telling the story about it would help other people learn about it.
I like that. You mean, Eric, you didn't write it just for me?
Well, I hate to tell you now, but I guess this is better time than any. I didn't write it just for you. I'm sorry.
I'm just heartbroken. My personal entertainment is what this is all supposed to be about. But since you have let me down so gently, why don't you tell all of our listeners exactly what The First Big Crush is about?
Well, it's pretty straightforward. I knew absolutely nothing about wine other than that. I liked drinking as much of it as I possibly could, but, regions, grape varieties, years, none of that made any sense to me at all. And I just had a passion for it and wanted to be somebody who could understand all of these things and still enjoy it. So I got this really crazy idea of quitting my job and packing up my apartment and moving down to New Zealand to work at a winery. And I did, and I basically showed up on their doorstep and said, "Hi, can I have work here for free and live in that house over there in that vineyard?" And they said, "Sure." And I stayed there for a little over a year. So everything I learned all about the people and the process. And when you read the book, as I learn about it, the reader learns about it along with me.
It's always interesting, and New Zealand is probably one of the most interesting places for you to have done it because, let's face facts, they're insane.
Well, they are, and I try to convey that in sort of the style and the tone in which the book is written. And in fact, their insanity runs so deep that that some people kind of read the book and said, "Well, why is it written in this way? This doesn't make any sense." And I said, "Well, if there were times where you were offended by something somebody said, or you were laughing at something somebody said, but also you learned a lot, your experience is just the same as mine was." And more to the point, though, is I didn't really want to go to a place like California or Bordeaux because everybody's done that before. So let's go find the more interesting, crazy place, and that's what I tried to do.
Oh, come on. Admit it to everyone. You were actually tasting and typing, weren't you?
Believe it or not, that doesn't work very well.
Yeah, I know. I tend to always get my words confused, and I read it later, and I say, what the hell was I trying to say?
I don't think I do remember one day in particular, there wasn't much going on at the winery, and I bought a bottle from the tasting room up front and took it home and said, all right, I'm going to sit down and crank out a chapter. I think I got through about a paragraph and a half. It didn't really work well at all.
It doesn't work well when you try and do radio shows when you're drinking either, as our listeners will attest to that as well.
I don't know. I'm drinking right now, but...
See, you're a smart man. Well, I've got to ask, what kind of job did you have before you decided to quit and become a wine writer?
I was a copy editor at a little business magazine here in New York, and we wrote really nothing about food or wine. It was all about investor relations and corporate communications. And after a few years of that, I figured that I needed to do something a little bit different,
or at least drink a lot.
Well, yeah, I figured that hopefully the two would come hand in hand, and they certainly did.
Well, not knowing anything about wine and going into this dead blind, which in all honesty I think is the best way to do it because you went in with no preconceived notions. You didn't know anything to expect. What is the one glimmer? What is the one thing you took away from the whole experience that changed your life?
And it's actually a very easy thing to answer, is that what makes wine more interesting and engaging to me is learning that it's regular, everyday people who make it, that they're not snobby about it, they're not pretentious. In fact, they're the exact opposite. They're when you see the movie about the person, the city slicker who winds up in the deep south and they're so out of their element, that's a lot of what it's like. These are just really regular, down-to-earth people who do something extraordinary for a living. And the fact that they tell dirty jokes, that they chew with their mouths open, that they are everything you don't expect them to be, that they're really the antithesis of the stereotype that's associated with the product they make, that makes wine that much more endearing to me.
Without a doubt, and that's something we love to try and convey on the Wine Crush. Ultimately, the great winemakers of the world, they're farmers. They're in touch with their environment. They're day in, they're day out, regular people. If they have a choice, they'd rather have a beer than sit around a table and stand up and talk to you about bricks and harvest. That's why they pay salespeople.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there probably is a small contingent of winemakers out there that that sort of fit the image a lot of people have in their minds, the tweed jacket and holding the glass up to the light and everything like that, but they're really in the minority.
Those tend to be pretty much, I don't know, the airplane, the continent traveling winemakers.
Yeah, it does. And also, to tell you the truth, a lot of those people, I don't really like their wines very much. I don't think they're very good.
I like the wines. I tend to nod off during their dinners, though. Very, very bad habit of doing that. Well, now that you have experienced the whole wine lifestyle, what is it like to get back in the real world? Now that we can welcome you into wine media, what are you doing now?
Well, I'm the deputy editor of the lifestyle section at Forbes, and so now I actually cover a broad range of things. Everything. We include food and wine, but we also have sports, travel, cars, real estate, business travel, art collecting, things like that. So it's actually nice to get away from wine now and again, because I also, when I immediately got back from working on the book, I worked at Wine Spectator magazine for a couple of years, and it was a great experience, and I learned a heck of a lot. But I think if you, or at least for me personally, getting that focused on wine started to take a lot of the fun out of it.
Oh, come on. The wine bug, once it bites you, you have 3 years. If you stay in this business one way or the other for 3 years, we know you're just insane enough to stay for the rest of your life. That means you're going to have to write us a sequel.
Oh, well, that's entirely possible. I wouldn't turn down that opportunity. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, the wine bug is still, firmly stuck in me like a really hungry, angry tick. But at the same time, it's I think it's like with anything else, some people who are, they really like, horror movies or something like that. They don't need to see every single one that comes out, and at the same time, and learn about every single little special effect. I think it's the same thing with wine. There are different degrees. I mean, you can, it's very much like collecting baseball cards, and you can have them in your closet, but you don't need to pull them out all the time. There are definitely varying degrees, and so yeah, the bug is still firmly entrenched in my flesh, but I'm also happy to
escape.
Set a limit.
Fair enough. Hey, I like your whole idea of comparing horror movies to wine. It works for me.
Hey, a lot of wines are horror movies. You should have seen some of the ones I tasted this morning. So
there you go. Well, Eric, thank you very much for being part of the Crush. I am personally looking very much forward to reading the first big Crush, the down and dirty making of great wine down under. And who knows, we can sweet talk you into coming on. We'll have you guest host for one show, and we can have a ball with it.
That would be great, as long as you guys provide the wine.
Count on it. Well, Eric, thank you very much, and we are looking forward to checking out your efforts into the wine world.
Great, thanks.